Let me actually plug in my hard drive. That would be a good thing. Hi everybody! So today on my extra channel, More MB, I decided that I wanted to do a sort of like behind the scenes video for the medley I did of Avett Brothers songs recently on my main channel. I will put a link in the description if you haven't seen it yet. I just thought it'd be cool, since I've never really done a like behind the scenes video with any of my music videos or covers, to go ahead and like show you kind of my process with that. So this is on GarageBand. This is where I like to do the like actual sound video or like sound files or like audio portion. So as you can see at the beginning, it just starts with like 3 parts, and sometimes it's only like 1 part if it's like between sections, but then it kind of goes more and then less and more, kind of depending on what song I'm doing and how many harmonies I decided to add. There's one part I want to show you where I actually use like all of these parts, and that is the Paul Newman versus the Demons song. I think this is it. Maybe. Yep. And that is just because there were a lot of different parts that I wanted to include, so that's where I had the most. But as you can see, it would have been really hard to just do all of this on video, because I wanted to be able to go back and like add like single little parts or things like that. I couldn't really sing through the whole thing. It would have been really impossible to edit, so that's why I like to do GarageBand here. Now in my Final Cut library, this is my Final Cut library. I use Final Cut Pro for all of my videos that I do. Once in a while I use iMovie for simpler stuff, but usually I use Final Cut. Here we go. Okay. So this is the video. Basically what I did, and this is the main thing I wanted to show you guys, is I have the audio file here, and this is what I got from GarageBand. I exported it into iTunes and then I dragged it into my Final Cut project. And then what I did to have like all these different background switching is I have this background and then this background, like the fence, and then this background. What I did was I brought my computer outside with me, and I played the audio file out loud and I sang along with it all the way through, and that way I would be able to line it up, and I wouldn't have to line up all the different like songs and all the different voice parts. All I had to do was line up the one part, and I sang different parts kind of throughout, even though I only recorded it 3 different times with 3 different backgrounds. I recorded it like kind of trying to sing the different parts so that it would look like I'm singing the different parts, even though in the end I went back and muted these parts. So even though my like voice is lined up, it's not actually the voice that like the sound that I'm singing here outside is not actually what made it into the video, because I used it in GarageBand, which I had recorded beforehand. So yeah, and then what I did to kind of make it switch back and forth between the different parts throughout the video is I lined them all up on top of each other. So they would go all the way across, so it would have looked like, before I like started cutting things and rearranging things, it would look like they would have all looked like this one, because the bottom one, it goes all the way across. And then sometimes when there's like nothing above it or in front of it, it's just this background. And then when there's only one thing in front of it, it's this background, and when there's 3 things or like 2 things in front of it, and it's this background. So I don't know if that makes sense, but basically, if you've used Final Cut Pro before, there's different like layers, and the layer that you drag kind of on top of everything, so this would be the top layer for this project, is the one that the like visuals show up in the final video. And since they're all muted, I don't have to worry about sound, so the only thing I'm really worried about is audio. I could have gone back and deleted everything like underneath the top layer, so if I had wanted to, since this is all I want the audience or like my viewers to see, then I could have deleted this underneath this, and then there only would have been, there only would have been 1 layer if I had dragged this down. And then if I had wanted, I could have done the same thing with this one and deleted this and made room for this to just go straight down, if that makes sense. And I'm gonna just undo all that, because I already have a final version of this video exported anyway, but I don't really want to change anything from how I had it, even though it's the same thing. I don't know if that makes sense. It probably makes sense if you used Final Cut or like some sort of editing software before. But basically there's 3 different layers, and I just use the layer that I want, and then I just cut and pasted and move stuff around depending on which background I wanted to be showing, or which version of me I wanted to be my viewers to see during the different parts of the different songs in the medley. Let's see, if I like pull this back open, this is the part that I didn't show. Like this kind of thing, I chose to cut this out because sometimes if it like didn't line up quite right, or if I was like kind of rearranging my like hair or my shirt or whatever, or if I was like sometimes on the banister one, like sometimes I'm standing there, sometimes I'm like sitting in front of it, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. And so in order to get from like here to there behind the banister, I had to like climb over the banister or like go around down the stairs. So obviously I didn't want a ton of that in the video, so I just kind of used the other backgrounds during that time when I was moving around. So if I'd left all of this in for this background, it would have been like me climbing over the banister like super awkwardly. So that's why I have different backgrounds, because I can't really rely on one background. And it also kind of adds the illusion of like showing that there's different parts and whatnot. If there's like, sometimes if I like I'm singing ooze in the background, then I'll like sing ooze in one of these backgrounds outside, and that way I can like cut to that background as soon as I start singing the ooze, and then it'll like kind of be more realistic, even though everybody kind of, like if you have a lot of experience with like making your own music videos or watching a lot of music videos, you kind of know that it's not usually the actual visuals or like the actual me and outside that is singing. Another thing I wanted to mention was once in a while, let me try to find one in the video, I'll have like, oh here we go, like something like this where it was just like a picture, or not a picture, but like a short video of like the trees. And I took a bunch of those. I went around my backyard taking a bunch of like pretty clips of things in my backyard, whether that's like trees or sun shining through the trees, or like flowers, that sort of thing. Here I have like this. And that I used that when there was times where I either was like walking around or adjusting my hair or like messed up mouthing the words or whatever, or like singing along with it. So let me just look like what I was doing here. See, I was like trying to distract the dog, so that is why I didn't want that to end up in the video. And then if I move this out of the way and I look down here, I'm like adjusting my hair. So that's the kind of cases where I would insert this in. So that's why they're just kind of randomly placed throughout the video, is because I didn't know what else to do when like none of the parts really worked to be like on the top as like what people saw during that time in the video. The only time I put these in intentionally was during Paul Newman versus the Demons, just because, oh that's creepy, it's like right over my eyes. Okay, for this one I added a lot of different like little like short clips of like the sun shining through the trees to just sort of add that like kind of chaotic effect, because I just felt like it wasn't really like that chaotic or fast-paced enough for that song. So this is kind of what effect that creates. I'll kind of, oh here, sorry, I'll show you.
From my demons, kicking and screaming. It's been so long now I've been with them. Don't know where they stop, and I begin. Yeah, yeah. Live through the past again. Yeah, yeah. How many times must I live through the past again?
So that is what that did for that, and I do think it kind of added sort of that element of, yeah, like chaos, or just sort of like kind of a faster paced to go along with the background or the audio behind it. The other thing I wanted to show you before I end this video is what it would have sounded like if I had left this audio in. The main reason that I didn't use the outside audio, besides just the fact that it would have been really hard to like go back and like line everything up if I had done a bunch of different parts, is that the like wind, or like whenever you're recording outside, there's always like wind or background noises, and it's not as nice as like the actual microphone that I've used, and this is what it is. And I'm sorry if the sound is messed up since I'm moving it around while I'm talking, but this is the microphone I use and I really like it, and that is what makes the sound or the audio actually like good quality, rather than just what my camera would have picked up outside. So this is what it would have sounded like. I hope you can hear the system audio. I'll turn it up all the way so you can hear. Yeah, so that's a little bit creepy, just because of all the wind, and like I'm singing kind of quietly, just enough to make it look like I'm singing, because I didn't really want to actually like full blast sing through the entire song 3 different times outside when I was recording. So it's not really like, I don't know, it sounds creepy. So then without any of that, when I muted all that and just relied on the audio I recorded ahead of time, it sounds a lot nicer.
I find to stand behind the words we say in the best of times.
So that's what I wanted to show you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you a little bit of insight if you were curious as to how I recorded that and lined it all up and stuff. And it did take a really long time, lots of hours, especially when I was doing, over here the GarageBand, just since I was like, it's like 8 minutes long, and every time I like would go through and record another part, and then I would have to like plan out the parts and line them up and like think about it, and then I would like listen through it like a bazillion times trying to like adjust stuff and line stuff up better and all of that jazz. So yeah, this is what took the longest, is just the like actual audio, and then putting this together, it only took like one day. I think it was a Saturday, this Saturday when I recorded it. And it probably took like 3 or 4 hours, which actually isn't that bad when you're doing this kind of project. That is all I have to say. Okay, goodbye. I don't know where to wave.
They say flowers bloom in spring, red and golden, blue and pink. They say seasons turn in time, theirs are changing. Why won't mine? It must be winter in my heart. Ooh, there's nothing warm in there at all. Can you not see what you've done? You gave your heart away like that. I didn't want to fall in love with anyone but you, dear. I can still hear the song, the melody behind the kiss you gave me. You were wrong, I was right, so I walked away. Once I was a carpenter, and man, my hands were calloused. I could swing a metal mallet sure and straight. But I took to the highway, a poet young and hungry, and I left the timbers rotting where they lay. Forever I will move like the world that turns beneath me, and when I lose my direction, I'll look up to the sky. And when the black cloak drags upon the ground, I'll be ready to surrender and remember we're all in this together. If I live the life I'm given, I won't be scared to die. We're the same, live and die, we're the same.